All right, everyone, welcome back for another episode of Carnivore Trades. Today is Friday, June 21st, 2024. If you've not done so already, please give the video a thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com for swing trading alerts, analysis, and live day trading. Anyways, let's get into it today. So not a lot to talk about. We'll keep the video a little bit on the shorter side as we're getting ready for the weekend here, and no real updates here. So we are lower today. A little gap down, and you can see a pretty tight pin job right here. So just down. I told you guys this yesterday. Don't bet on directional moves. Just bet on mean reversion, and just stay in scalp mode. And that's been correct today. We took one scalp in the trading room this morning on IWM. Got in and got out with a pretty nice little gain. And since then, just kind of backed off, and we've just gone sideways for the rest of the day. So keeping it simple here. Nothing has really changed as far as that is considered. Why are we doing that? Well, because it's Opex, right? So we know that there's a good pin job going on right around, we've just been between 544, 545 pretty much on the SPY. There is a little bit of GEX. It's actually starting to change now. It looks like 545 area. It was a little bit higher a little while ago. You can see I'm using SPY today. I typically use SPX. I notice that SPY likes to change a little bit. The market tends to go off of SPY a little bit more on these Opex days. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just because there's so much retail involvement, and they don't know any better, and they just keep buying calls and puts, thinking that the market's going to go somewhere. And market makers like that because they can just burn that stuff out. So again, let's not make too much out of today's price action, but a couple of things we do need to look for here, and I do think we will see a pullback. I talked about that yesterday. Cycle date are right around today. And, a quarterly Opex, there's going to be natural flows that kind of change in the market around these times. That's why I think that we could see that rotation. But it's going to be important to see if we do get this pullback, specifically in tech and chips, right? So SMH down 1.5, NVIDIA down a little over 3 again. So with the engulfing candle yesterday, Broadcom down as well. Got a pretty fat island there. There's a fat gap for Broadcom too. You're looking at 1500. NVIDIA, we start to get momentum to the downside. There's nothing to say it can't go back to 95, 100, right? And looking on the monthly, you got a fat gap there, on the monthly chart here. And you're still, we could fall to $52 and still be above the 20 moving average on the monthly. Now, I'm not saying we're going to fall that far or anything, but just to point out how extended. So if we start to see chips come back in, what do we need to look for? We need to look for the Russell 2000. What I like about the Russell today, and again, it's Opex. We don't want to, get too excited about one day because there's lots of panning effects and stuff. But, the Russell here with the outside of the little dump earlier, it went green and it put in a high of the day around 1040. And the spiders didn't put in a high until around 12 o'clock. And they just kind of, they've been down and struggling here, whereas the Russell's got a nice tight pattern here. And the Dow, which has been kind of trading with the Russell in the sense that it's been underperforming, again, holding up, and it's holding the flat line here. So seeing that, and then seeing XLE yesterday outperform today, again, it is red, but it was strong earlier. And you're seeing sectors like XLP put in this nice kind of wedge here, threatening a breakout. And with NVIDIA down, you're seeing money flow to Google, Amazon, Netflix, right? And Microsoft also up decently on the day as well. Also seeing kind of KRE come up off the lows here and try to firm up. So we're seeing some rotation. Another sector we talk about every day, Dow Transports. This is one of the strongest sectors in the whole market right now, at least for today. This is a sector that everybody's saying like, oh, this is a leading indicator. We're going to a recession. The market's going to crash because the transports are diverging. And I talked about this last week. So did they suck in some shorts there with that big candle and a reversal? It's certainly possible. So seeing that rotation, again, it is Opex. So it's hard to make too much out of one day. But transports were green yesterday and the markets did back off. So it's not just a one-day thing, but we need to see that if the Qs are going to continue to pull back and tech is going to continue to pull back. I want to see IGV take the lead too. I want to see other tech sectors kind of take up the mantle there. Biotech, could be another one to watch. But right now, market's in this range. 5,500 is resistance in the short term. Very short term support here is at 54.50, and then 54, and then, you know, really down to 53.25, 53.50 is the big level. Should we get down there, and you got the 20-day moving average, which we can trade through. It is minor, but that is there as well. Triple Qs here again, same kind of deal. 470 area, then gap fill, and then 460 is the big level in the short term. We could round trip it back to about 450 there, but that would be kind of your max move here in the short term. Again, IWM, same thing. Still looking, you know, as long as it can hold these weekly higher lows and continue to firm up, I think it can get through 210. So I think if you go back up there one more time, I think it's not going to hold. You get, you know, if you have higher lows here and you go back up here, I think it can bust through that. But it's going to be important to see, can that rotation be sustained? I also think sentiment on small caps and transports, we just mentioned, is in the gutter. Maybe I'll do a video on that, but I see the same exact kind of sentiment. Well, maybe not as bad, but one of my better calls was China earlier this year. I bought into this bloodbath here and got in very close to the lows. And with small caps, I think the bull case is that there is no bull case. If you understand what I mean, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I can't think of anybody who has a bull case. Even fundamentally, I can't even pick up a bull case, right? Because it's either inflation or it's a recession, right? Previously it would be like, oh, bonds up, small caps up, right? And then yields up, small caps down, right? Because it's harder for them to finance debt. But now it's like we're almost getting bonds up, and small caps kind of up but down less, because it's like, well, now that means recession, and that means that it's worse for small caps. Okay, well, it can't be both. You can't have both. It's either yields up, small caps down, or vice versa. You can't have it both ways. That means that there is no bull case, right? So you're telling me there's zero possibility, right? Well, we know that in and of itself is impossible. So if there's no bull case, that means that everybody's positioned bear, or they're going to be. Just something to consider. Don't mean to get on a tangent there, but something I find interesting. Diamond here flat, SMH down. We talked about that. IGV, beautiful pattern here on the weekly. I think this is getting ready for a breakout. Transports we talked about, short term. Still got to get through 15.2 to 15.3. Interest rates here are flat to negative. So nothing really going on there. Oh, by the way, took a look at the 10-year here. I just put that in yesterday. Maybe a little kind of wedge pattern, falling wedge there. So speaking of, you know, recession or whatever, what if we do that? That's going to say, that's kind of spitting in the face of the recession talk, as is the yield curve inversions, right? So they're still pretty well inverted here. So I think if we have a recession, it's going to be mostly masked by inflation data. But anyway, XHB here, breaking back below this wedge. And it's going to get a weekly close. It's not super major because you could simply point to the weekly and monthly and say you're just doing a weekly/monthly consolidation pattern. But XHB still holding up, and it was down today. VNQ is getting interesting too. Again, this is a sector. This is not a bad pattern here. It's really not bad, and it's holding up today in a down tape. Again, it's Opex, but if this can stay firm here for a little bit longer, I think it builds enough of a base to bust through. And then you're talking about a weekly breakout here, maybe back up into the upper 80s, low 90 area. So VNQ is interesting. XLF down today, but it did come off the lows, and again, it's looking like it's putting in or trying to put in weekly higher lows here too. So banks still holding up. KRE down today, but nothing terrible. KBE down today, but same thing, nothing terrible there. Broker dealers backing off as well, but no real problems in that space. Oil did back off today. I did not get a short in. It went right to the trend line. Went right to the 618. I told everybody in the trading room if we were up Monday, I probably would have taken it, but it could have been done. I think I said yesterday you could inch in if you wanted to, really, if you wanted to put in a small position. It is backing off. I mean, really good level there. I just wasn't. I don't like shorting commodities into the weekend, especially oil when there's geopolitical stuff, unless I really, really like the level. Um, you just never know what can happen. So, but it hit the level perfectly and it backed off. So I'd expect oil to probably have to pull back here. Um, I don't really have a bias on it. I do think it probably heads up into July. That's typically what it likes to do. I'll look at it more over the weekend, but right now, little pullback off of resistance. XLE we mentioned earlier. I think this is getting close to a bottom, if it hasn't already. So I'm interested in that. And XOP here and OIH are a little bit weaker, but they're still holding up just fine. I think they're close to a bottom. Also, CCJ maybe starting to put in, maybe starting to get a little tired here on the weekly. So just kind of backing off a little bit, but again, no problems here. Good spacing between the moving averages. Chart looks good. URNM, I'd like to see it keep weekly higher lows, but you still have that big fat inside bar. And on the monthly, I don't show this very often, but if it can just hold up here and let that moving average catch up, it can really start to break higher. The NJ is a little bit weaker. It was outperforming, now it's a little bit weaker. So watch out for the NJ. It might need to go test 23 again. Nat gas here, pulling back today, nothing really doing. If it comes straight down to 250, I'd be interested in a long play. That's really it though. That would just be for a bounce. Outside of that, I've avoided it. Then King Dollar. I keep hearing about de-dollarization. This is looking really good. Bullish inside bar. It's starting to curl back up. This is getting ready to break out. The dollar looking pretty strong here. May need to back off of 106, off of this trend line one more time, but dollar's looking pretty good. It's starting to curl back up. Gold, really good rejection. Really good fake out. So yesterday we talked about the possibility of a bear flag failing. It started to, and then good rejection. That said, dominant pattern is still bullish on the weekly. So gold here may need to come down and test 2250 after all, but again, it's just a healthy correction, healthy digestion. Silver, same thing, down 4%, completely erasing the move. And that looks like it still needs to do some backing and filling. We see GDX and SIL also backing off. Platinum still holding up though, platinum up 1.3. I wouldn't be against that coming down one more time. Let me get rid of this fib. I would have preferred the 618 to get tagged. It didn't, but it's still a pretty good bid. You can make a case. You got a little trend line going on there too. We'll see what platinum does. I haven't touched it yet. Palladium did get a pretty good bid, but then came back in. So again, these may need to have one more little dip here. And then copper here coming back again. You guys know I like it at 425. Bitcoin here, again, still backing off. This is starting to get attractive though. I like pullbacks where it just kind of grinds lower like this. It's almost kind of like looking like it's got divergent lows. Like it's not at oversold RSI yet, but you've got like that. It's just kind of like grinding down. Like sellers are trying so hard to push it down, and they're not breaking it lower, right? It's just like a grind down. So I think maybe you get to daily oversold here into 63, 60 to 63,000, maybe even into this trend line. I think it could get a divergent low set up and could get a bid here. So I'm not thinking this is a terrible pattern here. The weekly is still pretty strong. So I think Bitcoin's all right here. If it gets a bid, likely working its way back to 69 in the short term, and then could try to fill out that head and shoulders target. I don't think it's ready to fully break out though until later this year, but still fine though. All right, so again, spiders here holding up. We're just going to get pinned here. I don't know exactly where we're going to close. Yeah, I mean, right now, yeah, I mean, SPY say in 545 area. So now 544. So just splitting between 544 and 545. Again, it's not of much consequence to me. I'm not really watching it that closely at this point here. We're probably just going to coast into power hour and we'll see what we get next week. But again, we should get a little bit more free flows next week without that pinning effect, and we'll see if this market goes up, if it's going to be governed by chips again. I don't think it will be. I think it'll be governed by other sectors, but that remains to be seen, and we'll see about that when we get there. So anyways, guys, you guys have a great weekend. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com. I'll see you guys all next week.